Welcome to another episode of Crazy Train with Jasmine St. Clair. Woo! Thanks so much for joining me this week for the ride. So, there's always something for everyone on Crazy Train. And as you know, I have a pretty good, variety of guests. And I feel that everyone should be able to have a voice on here because I don't cancel people. I'm not that sensitive. I encourage people to speak their minds, especially in today's society. And I also believe in sometimes burying the hatchet for the sake of entertainment. I kind of feel bad sometimes when I beat the living crap out of Misha Montana with my kendo stick in XPW wrestling. So I decided, hey, let's maybe we should just have a chit chat and see if there are things that we agree on, things we like, and so forth. So just for the sake of my listeners, I decided to bring on Miss Misha Montana as my guest today on Crazy Train Podcast. So without further ado, Miss Misha Montana. About and what we think. But yeah. This is
Right.
so funny having you on the podcast right after we were like in a ring rolling around in glass and beating each
I'm
other.
I know it's not funny. I'm sure people are gonna be like, "Oh, what is happening here?"
Yeah.
Like, I agreed to let our bygones be bygones.
No.
Come on, you got me so good. I know. We'll take it to the ring. We'll take it to the ring.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
I
yeah, that
yeah.
was crazy.
I was
That was
scared
so crazy.
because you're like taking photos with welts. I'm almost thinking that like you're somehow into this and I should be getting paid from you directly to do that.
Honestly, I was thinking the same thing because it was kind of a trick. Like, I actually like that shit. So the joke's on you.
Yeah, I didn't get paid a penny
I
for
love it.
support. I know this is crazy. But what even got you into wrestling? Because the first time I see you at XPW, like I knew you were going to be there. Then I see you at XPW wrestling, and then I see you posting. Never did I think in my younger years, and it was a photo with me and Veronica Kane. So, how did this whole wrestling come about in your life? Did it find you? Did you seek it?
To be completely honest, I never like even was into wrestling until about 2 years ago. Ivan's the one who got me into it because he's been one so involved with XPW, but he was a WWE fan, he's an AEW fan. He's been involved with loving wrestling his whole life. And so, being around him so much, it kind of started to transfer over to me, like when your boyfriend's watching football and you're pretending not to watch the game, and then you kind of start getting emotionally attached. So I started to love it myself, like, and the more I watched it, the more I loved it. Like, I started to bug him, like, can we watch Dark Side of the Ring? Who's Wardlow going to go against tonight in AEW? Like, I've been so involved in wrestling over the last year, particularly just as a fan. And I never thought in a million years, like, the way that it all happened and transpired was when Rob brought back XPW, he asked Ivan to be a part of the photography in it. And, obviously with us being porn related and the crossover from Extreme in your time, that was part of the whole thing. So I was like, this is a great opportunity for me to be involved with something that I truly love and to have that crossover there. I never imagined in a million years that it would be what it is. Like, I love it. I mean, my passion is definitely wrestling over even porn now. I watched, you and Veronica are just absolutely legendary icons to me in both respects. So I'm so grateful to be like learning from you guys, even though you beat me up all the time. And but I love it. Like, I love the wrestling stuff so much. I'm so excited to see where it goes. And we've got some big plans coming. So
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's weird because I didn't know if I'd ever talk to Rob again. And you did see Dark Side of the Ring. Now, was
I
that
did
before or after you met Rob?
before,
Okay, all right.
actually.
Yeah.
I knew all about Rob before. And watching Dark Side of the Ring was really interesting because we're watching it with Ivan, who was a part of that entire story. Like, would have been a good person to interview for that too. But watching Dark Side was, they're always slanted in a certain way. They're trying to paint this picture of somebody that, you know, isn't necessarily a good representation of who they are. And I've always wanted to meet Rob. And this, I had no idea he was going to bring XPW back at the time that I saw Dark Side. So when he was going to bring it back, I was like, I absolutely would love to fucking be a part of that. 100, like I would love to be involved in this in whatever way possible.
It's kind of the same thing I said at first too. Then like here I am years later, just getting back into this whole thing. And it's fun because like I like working with younger talents such as yourself because it's a tough thing. Like, were you expecting to be mistreated or maybe like what were your expectations when you went back to XPW and then you found out, oh, okay, well, I'll be working with Jasmine and Veronica, or I'll be doing this and doing that. Like, did it meet your expectations?
Oh, 100%. It actually exceeded my expectations because when I first started doing it, I didn't really realize, like, I thought it was cool enough to just be involved as even like to be featured in a promo and have nothing to do with the stories, or, you know, to be Schlack's valet was so cool. And then, I mean, I wanted to have always wanted to be involved in it more physically and, you know, to be involved in the actual matches and the whole storylines and everything else. Like I want to be as involved as possible. And it's like when working with you guys, I was like, this is the coolest fucking opportunity I've ever had in my whole life, you know, for us to do this. It's like, it's so cool. And I know you know, you wear many hats and all the businesses and projects that you have. Like, I know it means the world to you too. Like, there's just something about it. It's just so magnetic and fulfilling. And you get a total rush from it in a way that you don't get from other things.
Yeah. Well, maybe a toxic relationship or something, or like
Sure.
some kind
Yeah,
of really, because
that's
toxic
fair.
relationships are fun.
It
Let's
is a
get real
toxic
about that. Now, did you find it? Were you obviously you started off
Oh,
with
I love
what?
toxic.
Toxic relationships? Huh?
I was like, oh, I love toxic relationships. We
I
love
know.
those.
I don't think people understand it. It just seems like people don't get like when you have a toxic relationship, it's kind of fun because it keeps the shit going and going. Maybe that's why I like unstable men for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I'm all about a toxic relationship any day of the week. Those are the best.
Yeah, you hear that, guys, girls?
The more toxic, the better.
I know that's yeah, it blows up in your face and then it ends up like with a restraining order or some shit.
Oh yeah, yep. Those are the ones, the favorites.
Well, you exist in the subculture of wrestling. Porn is also a subculture. How did you get involved in porn? And did you face a lot of challenges being tatted up at that time?
You know, I've been doing sex work for about 10 years. I finally started to jump into industry porn and got the courage enough to do it about 2 years ago, you know, dead smack in the middle of the pandemic. Great timing. But when I got in, the only company that would hire me, because I am coming from the corporate world in the old fashioned way, like I send really professional emails to companies, you know, which no one does. And I was never able to get an agent. I went through all the agencies. They politely declined taking me on. And I was frustrated. I didn't even know, like, I didn't realize, like, which I think people don't realize how difficult it is to actually get into the industry side of porn. And I was lucky enough that Ultra responded to my email and how I got brought on just into porn in general, into mainstream industry porn. I was brought on through Ultra Erotic, and you know, kind of the rest is history with that. I became the chief brand officer and production manager and only female director for them, as well as the unofficial contract star for them, and all these wonderful things. And it really elevated my career just being with them. And they're the only company that highlights tattooed models. I've had people, agents, I got an agent after the fact. I was dropped by that agency because of the tattoos. I've had directors and producers say like, I'm trying to get you into some of these scenes and they just won't go for it. Which is crazy. People have this misconception that, tattoos are so wildly popular and people, these beautiful tattoo models are, have huge followings and very successful, but it's like crossing in, it's still the same that it was 20 years ago for the most part. Like it is extremely difficult to be tattooed in this industry, which people don't believe at all, but it is like completely, which is unfortunate, super unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, when I was leaving the business, there were only two girls that were tatted up, Tara Patrick and Janine
Mm-hmm.
Lindmuller. And now it's like everyone. I just had Ebony Mystique on the show. She's African
I love
American
her.
and she's gorgeous and she's tatted up. But you girls seem to, do okay for yourselves. And
Yeah,
yeah, you really do. And did you watch porn growing up?
I never did actually. I'm not a big consumer myself. I never really watched it. I watched, obviously like everyone else, I watched Pirates, and like I knew who people were. Like I knew who you were, I knew who Veronica was, I knew like Jenna Jameson, Stormy, and a lot of the bigger name girls. I always knew them for being like more of the public figures than necessarily watching their actual physical scenes. I never was like aroused by porn. Like I'm a very like mental visual person. So like even when I'm masturbating or like even to get me like to come like while I'm having sex like with someone, I'm visually in my mind. Like I don't need actual visuals to make to myself get there. So I've never really consumed it. Once in a while, I'd watch it. A lot of the stuff that I'm into is like the bondage and BDSM stuff. That's if I'm watching something, that's what I like to watch. But for the most part, I don't. I actually watch more porn now, and it's really just analytically, going through my scenes and being like, I don't really like that part right there. Like it's not arousing professional purposes these days.
Don't you think it's weird seeing yourself when you're even going through it for analytical purposes?
Sometimes it used to be weird where it was like cringe. I can't like watch myself, but I'm so detached from the emotional investment in it that it's like I really just look at it for what it is, and I critique myself probably more than anything too, where it's like, God, I wish you wouldn't have done that, like, or your face looks like shit there. What are you doing? Or there's times where I'm like, well, this is fire. Like, I love this. You look great. You killed that shit. So, I enjoy like going through them and watching it, but it doesn't like rouse me in a sense. Like, it's more just strictly business. It's for us so much into this emotional connection that doesn't necessarily exist. I mean, rarely, if ever. And you have to understand that it's a performance. And, you and I understand that, but a lot of people on the outside just get so caught up with, they blur the line between reality and fantasy so much that they forget that like we are performing, we are actors, So it is so heavily business minded for me, but it always has been. And I enjoy the performance of it. I love hearing people's feedback. And when they enjoy something, it's great. Then we just make it better the next time. But I love it. I love porn so much. Like, I really do love what we do. I'm very, very happy with it. But I'm happy with it because I can control my content now. Most of the projects I either write or have like a direct hand in myself, where a lot of people don't have that. So not getting booked a lot for big, huge companies is actually a blessing for me, because then I get to make the stuff that I want to make and that I'm comfortable doing and good at doing. Like, there's so much stuff in the industry now that I hear from people and that I've seen where they're in uncomfortable situations and they don't have control of the narrative as much as they would like, and they feel pressured to do things they don't like. They still do it. It's still ultimately their choice. But, I like being in the little alt erotic bubble. Like, being in alt porn is definitely a huge blessing for me. I love it.
Yeah, I could totally tell by the way you talk about it. I mean, it's a shame because back then we didn't know, well, obviously we didn't have the internet, we didn't have OnlyFans, we didn't have all these great ways to capitalize on it, and some goomba sitting in frickin' Rhode Island has the rights to my
Right.
movies. Huh? You're frozen, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
go.
sorry, did it freeze?
It's okay.
No, it's crazy the way we've actually, the progress with having creators be in control of their content has just been substantial. Um, and it gives us individual ability to, make money outside of companies where you're not reliant on those companies the way it used to be. Obviously, working with them still, it enhances your brand and your image and the widespread promotion that they can give you. Um, but ultimately, like having your own content really is king these days in a much different way than it was years ago. But I actually I prefer working with companies because in my mind, like being an iconic porn star, you're on a box cover. You're not in your living room like doing content in sweats. Like that's all great and fine, but like I always wanted to be that figure that that you are, like where you're the porn star, you're the glamorous box cover girl. Like that's what I wanted to be. So I have a hard time separating from like the industry and like the content stuff, like because I would always choose to prefer to be in the industry than to make content too, if that makes sense.
It seems like there could be a happy medium. Oh, by the way, when I was looking through your photos, I think there was some really hot guy in the photo. I forgot who it was,
Which
but
one?
I don't know. He was cute. He was too old though. He was like 28 or 20, whatever he was. But
I know he's too old for it.
some men actually people took offense to that, like grown men took offense to it. I think it's funny. I mean, there's a
I
50,
think it's great.
exactly. They're 50. I have a friend who's like 50 that told some 20-year-old girl that she was too old. And he's
Yeah,
not even
it's
good
okay when
looking.
they do it.
Yeah, exactly. Screw them. Yeah, guys, you
Yeah.
hear that?
Yeah, you're too. Oh wait, you're 27, baby. You're getting up there. Like I can't do it. Yeah, you want them young, dumb, and full of cum. That's like the perfect fucking little boy toy. That's
Yeah,
the perfect
right.
age in their 20s. It's so big. I love you so much for
Or a death
that.
match wrestler, even if he's married. But anywho, so I didn't say that.
Side note.
Yeah.
Side note.
Well, yeah, no, side note. Okay, side note, truth. Yeah, truth
It's
is
true.
yes.
We don't know about that. No, we
Yeah.
don't know about
Yeah, we
that.
have no idea about this show. We would never do that, right? But
Never, never.
so you seem to be doing really good with your own content and just doing your whole thing with your appearances. Do you feature dance as well, or did you not get
I I have been
that?
actually.
Okay.
I did. I love featuring. I was so nervous about it. So what's funny is like, I public speak a lot and I do these panels and interviews and all these different things. But I was so nervous about feature dancing. That was the thing where I was like, is this seriously? This is the thing that you're gonna freak out about? And here's why. Because I've never was a dancer. Like I never was, and I'm not good at it. And so I don't do pole tricks like I'm up that fucking pole. There's no way. Like, and I was so nervous that I was gonna eat shit, or then like I had to be up there for 15 minutes, and I'm like, what am I gonna do for 15 minutes up here? Like, I can't do anything cool. So I was so nervous about it, but it ended up being like great, and I love doing them now. Like that, once you get the first one out of the way, like everything's like, for the most part, smooth sailing from there. I love featuring. Featuring is one of my favorite things to do now too. Like absolutely love it. I had such a blast doing it. So I enjoy that. And I enjoyed, doing appearances at the conventions and meeting the fans and I like interacting with people. Like that's the biggest part that I get the most joy out of is to be able to like meet people. And I still am at that point where I know at some point it might wear off, but it's like I love meeting people and having them be excited to meet you. Like that's such a cool thing that I think we kind of take for granted sometimes when you get like, conditioned to it happening so much. Like, but I love it. I'll never ever not like inter engaging with fans for sure. Like even with XPW, like I love the meet and greets. I love that stuff. Like it's fulfilling, and everything that we do is validated at the end of the day.
How long have you been involved in adult films?
Really only about like in industry side about 2 years, but on and off I did like print for 10 years and then switched over to video probably about like 3 years ago. So not a terribly long time, but what's crazy is my career in the first technical year in the industry went so huge that people and I'm old, so there's that. So people like assume that I've been in it for like way longer than I've been in, and I really haven't. I'm still kind of like I'm still considered like new performer of the year. Like I wasn't even eligible for it last year. So, and that was the biggest year that I had was my first year. And this year was great following that. So, my career the track was sped up substantially. Like I think I accomplished about 10 years worth of work in 1 year with brand building. But that's what, like, I think it's so important, you know, you either kind of get it or you don't in this business, where I'm glad I waited till I was older to get into it and had, a career in politics and had all these life experiences to get into it. Because if I was 18, I would not have been as successful. Like my hat's off to these girls that get in at that age and can handle themselves with grace and financially, take care of themselves and plan for the long term. Like it's a difficult business to be in. I mean, mentally, financially, emotionally, there's a lot involved in it. So I always say to people, like, really thinking about your brand is the most important thing that you can do. You're a living, breathing brand. You have to pour everything into that. So everything that I can do to build my brand, I do. And I've been very successful in doing so. So I'm grateful for that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I get the whole thing, just doing a lot like within a year. I existed in that whole thing for like maybe 2.5, 3 years, and bam, just got out like
Right.
cold turkey. It was easy because I liked wrestling more, but I
Yeah.
watching wrestling. Rob was the reason, like he gave me that leeway out. Like we didn't know what we were doing, but he was basically my ticket out in a way. Not that I was looking
Right.
to get out. I just might get out somehow or another. Um, I just didn't know exactly how. Now, did you just win an award at the Urban X Award show? Because I saw all these photos on your page and like all the alternative models pages. I'm like, what is this? Did you win something? Or I know you were nominated. You had to be.
I was nominated. I was honored to be nominated. I was nominated for hottest ink star. That brought my total nominations this year to 17, um, and which is crazy. Like I still can't believe that. And I didn't win, but it was a great time. It was a wonderful, beautiful night. And then I just was nominated again for Best Ink Star at Why Not? And I'm also speaking on a panel for mental health and social media for them as well that week. So it's just like, I feel bad asking the fans, like it's been like a year straight of be like, hey, vote for me, hey, vote for me. And then all of a sudden, like this new award comes up and they're probably just like, Jesus Christ. But I'm like, it's great. I mean, you can't complain about that. Like I'm so honored to be nominated. And the Why Not one, there's only 5 people in the category and there were 2,000 submissions for pre-noms and they only picked 120. So I'm totally just beyond grateful. I'm speechless in a sense. Like it means a lot to me to be nominated for these things. It really does. So
Yeah,
I'm happy.
I don't know. Like I still have this weird conspiracy theory that maybe somehow, just somehow, I don't know. I believe the fans vote, but I don't know. I just think there's some other thing to it. I, I have no
I
idea.
agree
That's
with
me.
that.
That's just me doing my conspiracy crap. I won't get into
I
it.
think so too. No, I, yeah, I'm there with you. I agree. But you know what? Whatever it is, like nominations, and Ivan taught me this too, is like he had over 100 nominations before he ever won his first award. And like, nominations mean more than the award itself sometimes, because you don't really necessarily know how people are legitimately securing those wins, right? But nominations, they are recognizing, you know, who is the elite in that in their class, like thousands of performers, you know, to be in a top 5 or a top 10 category in the entire industry, like shit, that means the world, whether you win the physical award or not. Like obviously a win is fantastic, but the nomination is equally as wonderful because they're recognizing your talent and the work that you put into it. So I am just beyond thrilled to be nominated as many times as I have been. So, and we just finished all of our pre-noms for AVN and Expos this year, and we've got some crazy projects. I directed my second movie in my series. I did a whole, almost like another showcase called Blackout DVD, and we did this weird alien series and Ink Motel, and so it's great. Like we'll see what happens with nominations for that, but regardless of that, like being passionate about what you do and putting out things that people enjoy is ultimately like the whole point. So it's nice to get nominated and win awards for sure, but it's nice to put out stuff that people like too.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part. And you know, awards and all those things, those are always political. We know that. Now,
Always.
I hope you're enjoying the ride on Crazy Train with Jasmine St. Clair podcast. So if you are, do me a huge favor. Woo, please go ahead. Go on to Apple Podcast or Spotify or whatever, but Apple's great. Give me a nice rating and review. Send me a screenshot, and I promise you, I will send you a special goodie bag. So please rate and review Crazy Train with Jasmine St. Clair podcast. And in exchange for that, once I see the DM with the review and your name and address, I will get those gift bags out to you. I'm not going to tell you what's in it.